Welcome to the Blueprint for Men podcast. We are glad you are here today. We are now into our our month of March, where we're going to be talking about men and just physical health and just health in general for men. But we have a great kind of segue from February into March when it comes to mental health, emotional, and spiritual health with a guy who kind of intersects all of those, Pastor Dave Ketelsen. So we want to welcome him here. But before we get started talking to Dave about his story and how we can help you, I just want to check in with you, Marty, if you have anything you want to share about the ministry or any updates you'd like to bring to everybody.
Yeah, well, there's always stuff going on. I would just encourage any of our listeners to go to our website where there's events listed. I try to keep that up to date. But one big thing on the horizon is it's hard to believe, but this ministry has been running for 10 years. Can you believe that, Dave? I remember early on we had an event at your church that was called Fire and Ice. It was a Saturday afternoon. It was really great. I would really like to do that again. But events were just kind of eating me up, and that was all I was doing. and in the end, there's men's ministry is a full spectrum. So, but yeah, we've got this 10-year anniversary coming up, and we've got a celebration lined up April 13, and some of you are going to see some promotion of that. There's limited space, but we look forward to that date as a way to launch kind of what we're calling Blueprint 2.0. Every ministry, every church, every business goes through phases where they kind of do a little bit of a stop and a pause, and then they go, okay, what do we really need to be doing? What's the Lord calling us to do? And guys, I'm telling you, even in our personal life, we need to do that. And I recommend to do it whenever God calls you to do that, to pause, but especially at the end of the year. You know, you get into November, December, kind of put a pause on a lot of things because, you know, it's just a good time of year to do that. So you're able to launch into the new year with both feet running, right, Dave?
That's right.
Running, yes.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about running here. But anyway, this event's going to be one of those times where we're going to be kind of projecting where we feel like God wants to go in the years ahead. And also a time to just say, thank you, Lord, for the blessing. So anyway, with that being said, again, just go to the website and check on events. Lots of things coming up. But Dave, welcome to the podcast. And, you know, Dave is a guy that I've known for a number of years. He's been a friend and an ally and just a friend for, I don't know, better part of 10 years. And now you actually serve on our board, and we meet quarterly. And so even though you're now in Colorado Springs, it used to be in the Chattanooga area, it seems like you're still close because of our ability to connect. So we're going to just jump into just kind of the interview part of this podcast and invite Mike, of course, to jump in with questions he has. He's very close distance-wise to you. About an hour drive, something like that. Is that right?
Yep.
Parker, there's a Parker, Arizona, but I mean Parker,
Colorado,
and then Colorado Springs. But anyway, Dave, one of the reasons that we've got you on the podcast is because you are a atypical pastor. I think that most people in their mind, when they think of pastor, they think of a middle-aged guy that's got a little bit of a conference spread. Yeah. And you know, just kind of wears suits all the time. And, you know, Dave, you're not that profile. And I appreciate that about you, is that you add a picture of ministry and pastoring that is refreshing. And I find my engagements with you over the years have been always fun. And I just want to commend you on that when fun and joy exudes from a person, that says a lot about people. But we want to learn a little bit about you, Dave. Your background and how you got especially into running marathons. This month we're zeroing in on physical health, and not everybody is drawn to run marathons, but it seems like that is your go-to thing. So tell us a little bit about your background. Well, just tell us where you're at right now, a little bit about pastoral family, where things are at right now,
Sure.
and then we'll take a look back at life, how Dave Ketelsen became the man.
Well, I live in Colorado Springs right now, pretty close to the foot of Pikes Peak, and anyway, beautiful area. We arrived here about a year ago, just a little over a year ago, December the 1st, and it's been a wonderful journey. Our church, when I arrived, was about 160 members. We got about 250 to 350 attending every Sabbath. We've had probably close to 23 baptisms in that time, so that's exciting. And I tell everyone my job is getting sinners into heaven and saints out of bed. Well, it's good to see the saints, come together and to comfort the disturbed, disturb the comfortable, and
there you go.
Make certain that people are not just complacent, but that
Amen.
They're absolutely serving the Lord. My background goes, I was born in Hollywood, believe it or not, Hollywood, California, and never really came across any movie stars other than when I was about 7 or 8. My mother took me to an ice skating rink in that area. And it just so happened to be the Brady Bunch was there, the youngest one in curls, little Cindy. It was her birthday. And anyway, we all had to just kind of let her have her party, and then we could come back. But she could pick one person out in the entire crowd to skate with, and she picked me. And so I skated around the rink holding her hand for 2 laps. And I told all my friends she was my girlfriend.
Yeah, Dave the Lady Killer.
I never saw her again, but I didn't wash my hand for a couple of weeks, so that's as close as I came to as far as any movie stars and stuff. But we moved from there, and then my father, he did not like public schools, and when I was probably about 10, and so I had a lot of issues with that, so he just said, I'm sending you to this Christian school. And we didn't know it was Seventh-day Adventist. And it
No
just
kidding.
happened to be, we'd come home and say, hey, we're not supposed to be taking these ham sandwiches. Kids would look at my lunch and they say, is that real ham? You're not supposed to bring it. Can we have some? They hadn't tried any, so... And then this little pastor, because we didn't know about the Sabbath, Elder Heinrich, a German guy, he came to our house and he says, I hear you have some questions. Can I tell you about what we believe? Our whole family was baptized. And
Wow.
Look back on that. My father actually wanted nothing to do with it. He, when he was young, his father, they came from Denmark. And his father was an inventor. By the way, just kind of a little thing. My grandfather, who I never met, Augustine Ketelsen, invented the very first milk carton.
No kidding. Like made out of the wax cardboard.
Wax cardboard.
Yeah. Wow.
So Augie Ketelsen, and then Henry Ford invited him over to America for his inventions. But he passed away. And when my father went to the funeral with his little brother, the preacher came down from the pulpit, pointed right in his chest, and he says, you better be good because your father's watching you in heaven. And my dad said, I wanted nothing to do with God after that.
Wow.
And so when Elder Heinrich came over to our house, he said, go ahead. He says, but I want nothing to do with it. And he'd go for a drive in his truck, or he'd be watching TV. But the day that he talked about death, what happens to a person when they die, my father happened to be in the kitchen. I remember watching him as like a 9, 10-year-old boy. And I remember seeing my dad listen to Elder Heinrich talk about what really happens when you die, that you're not in heaven or in hell, you're asleep in the grave. And I've never seen my dad cry. I wouldn't say he was crying, but there were tears in his eyes, and he walked over and my dad used to drink a lot. He was a nice guy, but he drank smoked big old cigars, and he walked over to Elder Heinrich. He says, "Is that really what happens when he dies?" Changed my dad's life.
Wow.
And we were all baptized as a family, and he became an elder in the church, and just a changed man, completely changed. In fact, just lost my father a few months ago.
Oh, wow. How old was he, Dave?
87.
80s.
I was almost 88. He was going to be 88 in just a little bit.
So now, let me just ask, the story that you're telling, where were you living then?
California. We were in Santa Cruz. Well, actually, SoCal, California.
Okay.
We moved from Los Angeles to Santa Cruz at the time. Yeah.
And so for those that don't know, that's on the coast.
Yeah, it's on the coast, right by the beach.
Yeah.
We go surfing a lot. I had my own surfboard and
nice.
Go down to the beach, and we'd see a shark, and we just come in, wait for them to go away. We go right back out. Didn't think more Jaws, you know.
Oh yeah.
But from there, I went to Adventist schools, went Monterey Bay Academy, and I got in a little bit of trouble and stuff. I didn't embrace the message. You know, I believed it. And then it was in college. Well, actually, it was high school. A friend who had a big old mustache. And anyway, he just changed my life. And Jose Rojas. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. So we became good friends, did a lot of things together. And I thought, man, there's a real Christian, someone who really,
right,
as Mark Batterson says, is all out and all in for the all in all. So he was all in and was just a real solid guy. And so he taught me to have a devotional life, Morris Vinden. I started reading books, and my whole life changed. And I remember my colleagues, my friends were saying, "Dave, you should go into ministry." I thought, I am not pastoral quality, man. I have long hair past my shoulders. I was like, no way. You got the wrong guy, you know. And I love the Lord, but I took speech class 3 times, and I dropped out the day before the speech class. I had to give a speech because I don't get butterflies. I get crows and buzzards flying around there. There's no way. And then I made a deal with God. I don't know if you can make deals with God, but I did. And I said, Lord, if you can get me through homiletics preaching, Greek and Hebrew, I can study for that. But that preaching stuff, man, that. And so our teacher said, hey, we're going to give it was my sophomore year. He said, we're going to give a battery of tests, kind of show you whether or not you're cut out for ministry. And I remember he said, well, 2 weeks from now, we'll give you your assessment. Everyone in my homiletics preaching class, David Taylor, he gave them their grades except for me. True story. And I thought, okay, I must have really did bad. He says, Dave, he says, I didn't give you your grade because I want you to follow me. And I followed him across the campus like a little schoolboy. He walks up to his office and he says, sit down. And I'm actually consoling God on the way. I'm saying, it's okay, God. I'm okay. I don't want to be a pastor anyway. I'm not pastoral quality. I'm just not cut out for it. But
oh my God,
I'm okay. I'll still serve you. And he says, Dave, you need to sit down. I thought, okay, this is really bad. I really bombed out. And he says, you know, this school was founded in 1882. It's 1981. And he says, next year will be 100 years. And I thought, man, he's really laying it on me. And he said, you know, we've never had a perfect score in homiletics until today. You're the first one in 100 years. I thought, that can't be. And I'm not going to get a big head because I know it wasn't me. It was only God. And I've never looked back. I mean, yeah, I still get a little fearful at times, you know, a little nervous, but I have never looked back. And it's
what a shot in the arm for confidence to have somebody of that stature to give you that affirmation. That's it's like
better than that, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's like I'm Superman, you know.
No. Now he's kept me humble many times. I tell people I don't make mistakes. I guarantee them. They keep coming back.
Yeah.
No matter how old we get. Still happens.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Keeps us humble.
Yeah. So
Cool, Mike. I know Mike has a little bit of a pastoral background. I don't know if you have any questions for Dave on that account.
Oh, not exactly. I remember my homiletics class, really enjoyed it. I had why am I drawing a blank on his name? He was a black guy, and he taught me so much about preaching that
wasn't David Taylor, was it?
No,
He's a black guy. Yeah.
no, I learned from him things I'm sure I wouldn't have learned from other teachers of homiletics, and
Yeah.
I enjoyed that a lot. I enjoyed my whole ministry, undergrad and seminary experience a lot. I just these were just I sucked all this stuff in like a sponge. Not sucked. I absorbed it. I could have learned. I could have taken so many more classes, and yet I needed to move on. Needed to get into ministry at the time. So, but I can somewhat not relate to that part of homiletics, but I just enjoyed it. My first time I ever preached, I'll never forget. I was passing one of my teachers, not my homiletics teacher, Pastor Kilgore. And I said, "Hey, Pastor Kilgore, I'm preaching this weekend." And he just kind of kept on going down the hall. He says, "Well, we all need to start sometime." And I'm like, "Thanks for the help." So I just preached my first sermon, and I have no idea what I preached about.
My first sermon was, I worked on a dairy farm. So I went up to the farm and I preached to the cows. Well, they were doing their cud.
Kind of reminds me of my grandfather. He was, like an elder or deacon or whatever. This is up in North Dakota, and he was a farmer, and he'd preach to the chickens and the turkeys. The turkeys, they raise turkeys.
Oh my!
Yeah, so they really don't have any criticism. Well, that's the nice thing about them.
It's always interesting where we begin.
So has this been your only career ministry, Dave?
Yeah. Actually, I did some odd jobs when I was in high school. I worked on a crop farm, picking squash and berries and tomatoes and things like that. And then I worked on a farm in college for 5 years, did crops. And I did have to milk cows. I milked 176 cows.
Wow.
Yeah. And sometimes I have to get up 1 a.m, milk those cows.
What? 1?
1 a.m.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
They went from twice a day to 3 times a day because they got more milk. So yeah,
it's all about the money.
Interesting sideline here. When I first started on the dairy farm, Mr. Barnhart, he said, "Hey," he showed me the ropes, and he said, "See this valve? It's very important. You turn this little valve here, because all the milk will go down the drain if you don't, it won't go into the creamery." Of course, my first night, I did not turn that valve. 176 cows. I forget, I added it up because it's about 6 gallons per cow that went down the drain. Very expensive. And he just looked at me and says, "You probably won't forget next time." That's funny.
Unbelievable.
Then I was driving in a big old king cab tractor, and it had big old dual wheels, and I had to get to class, and I'm coming back, and the sun was glaring on the window, and I couldn't see, and all of a sudden, here's this car, this lady has to drive, and she goes down into a ditch. I go over to the side, and I mow down a fence where all the little calves are, so they're running all over, and then this poor lady's in the ditch, and I'm trying to get her out. I hook up a chain. She's okay, but she was real nice. Come to find out, it was Mr. Barnhart's wife. Knocked in the
Oh, Dave.
One night I left a gate open, and all the cows, because at PUC there's an airport, all the cows are on the airstrips.
It was a grass strip, right?
No, it was. Yeah, it was their landing strip. But boy, I'll tell you, trying to get all those cows back in. We had a blue heeler that helped, but he was so nice to me. Such a neat guy. Yeah.
So, Dave, what about your family? Those early years growing up. What a rich life you had, just getting to, the adult stage of life, and just kind of walk us through that. And then we want to get especially to this, our emphasis this month is on the physical dimension, and you've just got this unique journey with running marathons. We want to get to that, but tell us a little bit more about family life and
Okay.
kids and just a little bit about that. That's an important part of a man's life. And
Amen.
particularly in the context, I think that one of the things that anybody that trains for any competitive thing,
Yeah.
it takes time. And
It's-
so we want to get to that. So go ahead and just tell us about family, and then we'll get to that more, the difficult questions.
Okay. Well, I'm out at let's see, Sunnydale Academy. I'm playing baseball, and I'm a pastor at the time. This pastor comes, "Hey, I want you to meet someone." I thought, "Yeah, I'm playing." I was on third base. I was going to make it home. I knew I was, and I said, "I want to go." And he said, "No, there's someone I want you to meet." So I had to leave the game and come into his house there. He was the pastor there, and so he wanted me to meet this young lady. And anyway, she was real nice. About swallowed my bubble gum as I saw her. Just she's real. Because I had two qualifications if I was going to marry someone. They had to love the Lord and they had to be cute. Just those two things. So
Not much to
and
ask.
so, anyways, we talked for about an hour, and then I left. And for some reason, I'd never asked a girl for her number. I turned around and I asked her for her number, and so from there on, it's kind of like and I turned around once more, kind of that I was looking back to see if she was looking back to see if I was looking back to see if she was looking back at me, and she was. And so I invited her 2 weeks later to have some pancakes. It was at called I can't remember the name, but it was granola pancakes down in Kansas City. And you know what? She gave it 2 weeks. She said, "Lord, if he doesn't call me in 2 weeks, it's over." And I called her. She said it was seconds before those 2 weeks were up.
Wow.
So
Wow.
then we've had 4 wonderful children, 3 boys and 1 girl. And anyway, just the highlight of our lives. One's in Chicago. He has 2 children. I'm a grandfather there. And then one in Nashville, and he's 6'5". Can you believe it?
Wow.
Gets his height
It's like,
weight.
yeah, Dave, how tall are you?
5'7",
Yeah.
How'd that happen?
6'5", and he just had they had a little boy, and they have another one on the way.
Oh,
And then
wow.
we have our daughter, 21 here, and our son, 19 here at home. So,
Wow.
yeah, good kids. And my son, 19, he's the one that got the computer going for me. He's
Nice.
incredible with technology, but great kids. They all love the Lord, and that's what counts.
Amen.
I just pray, Lord, every day. I want my kids in the kingdom, and yeah.
Yeah. And there's no guarantees on these things. And so, there's a kind of a heart of thankfulness if you have that, because, we can't take the credit for a lot of those things, can we, Dave?
No, we can take a lot of fault for a lot of things, but can't
Yeah.
take the credit. Yeah.
Right. Right. So, Dave, let's get into the running. Okay, so you obviously have a build for running. You're what you would call a slight build man, but of course anybody can pack on pounds, so that slight build can change, especially as we get older. And yet, this is not something that you picked up later in life out of a health crisis or something. This is something you've been a runner for a long time. Can you tell me a little bit about how did that come about?
I was at Monterey Bay Academy, and a friend came back. He was sweating one evening, and he had just gotten done with a 2-mile run. And I said, "Why do you run?" He says, "The chicks love it." I said, "Oh, okay." He thought it was a chick magnet. I said, "Well, I'm going to run too." So I started running with him, and I think it worked, But we started just running. We'd run along the beach there in Monterey Bay Academy, and I'd work at Harris Pine Mill in the summer, and I thought, I'm running home. And it was like 13 miles along the beach, a half marathon, which I didn't even know anything about marathons or things like that. And I just entered a few races here and there, and I kind of did it for health reasons, but then I got addicted and just found I felt so much better. I had a lot of headaches as a boy. In fact, I would be laid up in bed for almost a week, 5, 6 days, chronic headaches, just migraines.
Interesting.
Chiropractors, other doctors tried everything. And I started eating better, the Adventist diet, the real, like a guy named Dr. Keim from Weimar actually came to
Yeah.
our high school and told us about drinking more water, eating more simple foods. And so I started doing that. And he talked about exercise and I don't think I've had 2 headaches in the last 40 years. It's just amazing how that changed my life. So
You got rid of the ham sandwiches too, right?
I did. Well, I still eat those triples now and then.
Oh yeah, the wham sandwich.
The wham, yeah. That's how I started. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so then you get to it's easy. I remember I used to run a lot, when I was younger, and then I got into just being super busy. I still worked out with weights, and I enjoyed that. Running, I've got a little scoliosis in my back, a little bit of some stuff going on there, and so if I run too long, I have a labral tear in my right hip. Anyway, so running has been really hard for me to do on a sustained basis because of those issues. But for you kind of caught this bug, and so when did you run your first marathon?
Let's see, that was in college. David Neiman said, hey, he was health ministries leader there, or teacher, professor at PUC, and he said, hey, I'd run with him, so let's do a marathon. So we ran the Napa Valley Marathon there, and my dad moved to Napa, so I lived right there. Okay. And anyway, we that was my very first marathon. And we'd run through the mountains, through the hills, and
Beautiful.
all kinds of places. And I try to balance it out too. I do. I don't lift weights; they're too heavy. But I do push-ups every morning. I do 100 push-ups every day.
Wow, that's great.
And then I try to keep some kind of a balance, and then I run. Not every day now, as I've gotten older. But I run 3-4 days a week. So longer on Sundays. Yeah.
What's that?
I run a long run on Sundays. I run with the Pikes Peak Running Club.
Okay.
Yeah.
So out of all your runs and doing marathons, what are some memorable ones that just really stand out? I know that you've placed fairly high at some of these races, so it's not like you're just slugging it out. You actually are kind of leading the pack for age segments and stuff at times. No?
Well, sometimes.
He's being modest.
In fact, I think one of my most memorable, one of my dreams was to do Boston. You can see I'm wearing the Boston shirt.
Yeah.
And 1996 was the Boston 100th, and I was so excited, and I was running well. And so I qualified, ran about a 2:30-some marathon, and so I was in the first wave. They do waves. So and I was so excited. But 2 months before the marathon, I injured my leg. I pulled a hamstring, my left leg. And I thought, well, it'll get better. I gave it some time. I gave it a few days, kept trying to run. But for 2 solid months, I couldn't run. So I called my folks and I said, listen, I wanted to do Boston. It's the 100th. And it was a dream, but I'm injured. I can't go. And my mom says, well, Dave, just go, and what you can do is you can just run 10 steps, and you can tell everyone you ran in the Boston 100. That, I'd really like to finish, and if I start something, I always like to finish. She says, well, then walk it. I thought, you walk. I didn't tell her that, but walking 26 miles would be really hard. But she talked me into coming, and so I went, and I remember getting at the starting line. True story. I got to the starting line. I was in the very front area, and that year, I think they allowed some 50,000 runners. So it's wall-to-wall people. You're getting kind of jostled. And I thought, well, I'll just see what I can do. And I had prayed that I would finish. That would be my goal. And I started to run, and then I'd walk a little bit, and there's this guy right next to me, and every time I ran, he'd run, and every time I'd walk, I thought, well, I could probably make 5, 10 miles, even if I haven't run, you know, for 2 months. And he'd just be right with me. And I noticed on the back of his shirt, it said God Squad. And he turns to me, probably about 3 or 4 miles in, and he says, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'd like to finish, but I'm certain I won't because I haven't run for 2 months. And he looked right at me and he says, you stay with me and I'll get you to the finish. I don't know you. You're not going to be one of walking, And so anyways, he kind of gave me confidence, but I thought, nah, this isn't going to happen. So I'd run and walk and finally got to 10 miles and I thought I'd just slip off. I was hurting because I hadn't run. And I thought, I still got, a long ways to go. I got 16 more miles. And so I started to get off and he says, hey, you just keep your eyes on the finish. I'll get you there. And I thought, oh, I'll see if I can go half. I get to the halfway. It's uphill. So I'm walking and my brother sees me. He says, hey, mom and dad's taking pictures up ahead. So, so I thought, well, I can't be walking when they get a picture. So I started running. Me and this God Squad dude, and they took about 5 or 6 pictures. And I thought, okay, I'm getting off here, but I'm not going to tell my folks yet. There was this tent, medic tent, and I thought, I'm just going over there. And when I went over there, there he was standing right in front of me. And he says, we're halfway there. Let's keep going. And he just kept encouraging me. And I thought, man, who is this guy? I said, well, let's see how far we can go. I can probably get 15. Got to 15. I wanted to quit. He just kept smiling. He said, Dave, he says, just keep your eyes on the finish. We're going to get there. And I thought, I didn't even tell him my name. How does he know my name? I'm not wearing it. But anyway, I just kind of passed it off. We got to mile 20. And I saw this big old tent and it says free massages. And I thought, every marathoner knows the last 6 miles is where the race begins. And I thought those last 6 miles are going to really hurt. So I said, I don't need to finish. I need a massage. And I saw this little opening. I ran for the opening. I just put my head down. When I got there, that guy was there. The God Squad dude was right there. And I thought, how did you get there? And he just looked at me and he pointed and he didn't even say a word. He said, just like this. I thought, okay, let's get to the finish. Those last 6 miles was one of the most painful things I ever went through in my life. I felt like getting off every time, but he just smiled. He just kept pointing to the finish. And I remember rounding the corner to the finish line, and I smiled at him. We walked with different people, and I smiled at him. He smiled back, and I just bolted for the finish line. And when I crossed the finish line, I put up my hand to give him a high five, and he wasn't there. I thought, well, I'll just wait for him. He didn't want to, run to the finish. He never came through. I kept asking people, hey, that guy I was with? No, we didn't see him. I said, yeah, I was talking to him. He says, yeah, we heard you talking. We thought you were delirious. And I asked my parents, we kept searching for this guy. He's got this God Squad on the back of his shirt. When we got in the car and went back to the hotel, I said, could we stop at like Walgreens and develop these pictures? I just want to see this guy, We developed the pictures. He was not in one of those pictures.
Wow.
And to me, a lot of people, and I've wondered, and I've thought, Lord, why would you send a messenger, an angel, to get me through a marathon? Well, I think it's a message for all of us. We have dreams in life. And you know what? Sometimes we get injured. We get hurt. We don't think we're gonna make it to the finish. But whether we know it or not, he has an angel right beside us, a messenger to get us through. As long as we keep our eyes on the finish, we will get there. And that's what life is. Keep your eyes on the finish. And it's all about keeping our eyes on Jesus. And he's the author and finisher of our faith.
I'm curious how many sermons that showed up in.
Yeah, I preach at every district I've been in, of course. Yeah,
sounds like that's amazing, Dave. Yeah. I just what a testimony to just miraculous intervention, and yet I think the really interesting message is there was no big purpose like saving somebody's life or anything like that. And I think that's a beautiful thing about God is we try to say, well, he does this and he doesn't do that. Well, we see over and over, he does the little things that really
Yeah.
don't make a difference, but just because he loved you, Dave.
You know, you said it so well. Just because he loves us, huh?
Yeah.
Just wants to show up and show off.
Yeah. And then, of
Yeah.
course, we have those other times where it's like, where are you, God? You
Mm.
know, you're not showing up. I really need you right now. And, you know, we want to figure God out. It kind of not possible.
Yeah. My ways are high as the heavens are
Yeah,
above. Yeah.
that's right. So now you're out in Colorado. You got a little altitude there, and I know that didn't you, you ran the Pikes Peak, and there was
Yeah.
some little
Yeah.
issue that I can't remember what was going on.
Ran Pikes Peak. I trained like 6 months for this thing. We'd go up to the top at 14,000 feet and we do the
Wow.
3-2-1. You run down 3, go back up 3, run down 2, up 2, down 1, up 1. So I really trained hard, and I ran with the president of the Pikes Peak running club. He's a great runner. So we were really training hard. The night before the race, it snowed. And it snowed so hard that, and this is September out here.
Wow.
And said, you know what? It's not just that you guys can't run, it'll be snowy, but all of our volunteers and getting cars up there, they couldn't clear the roads in time. So we did get to run 15 miles of it. And I had it's a tough race.
Oh,
And
man.
I've sprained my ankle on it twice, but I came down pretty good. I did win my age group, so I was excited, and got.
That's exciting.
I got a little.
What's your age group, Dave, if I can ask?
I'm 65 now, believe it or not. Now you're
Wow.
only as old as your attitude and your arteries, so keep them clean. So 65 to 69 is my age group. Yeah.
Yeah, always good when you're on the front end of that
Yeah.
next age bracket, isn't that right? That's what I hear.
That's for sure. Yep.
You have the edge usually.
I'm running Tokyo Marathon March the 2nd, which I'm excited.
I heard that. Yeah, I saw that maybe on Facebook, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, go to another country to run a marathon. You're in rarefied air. Most people are just happy to do with one in the nearest town, you know? That's pretty cool. So let me ask you a couple of deeper questions. Unless, Mike, you have anything you wanted to chime in on that?
Not at the moment. My favorite way to go up
Okay.
Pikes Peak is the Cog Railway.
Oh yeah. I've been up that way too. It's pretty slow.
Yeah. Well, anyway, now when it comes to, we're kind of in this segue of mental health, spiritual health, and physical health, strength. How do you see all of these converging in all the running you've done? Is there that spiritual part of running and exercise that you experience in a special way, connecting with God, with others, just feeling something that you don't feel any other way? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, when I run, it's like that hour or so, all of my tensions, the stresses, all the things that clamor for my attention in the ministry, it's kind of just out there in nature, running in the mountains on those trails. It's just free. You just kind of let it all go for that amount of time. And mentally, it just, those endorphins, the serotonin kicks in, and you get that natural high that only God can give.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love being in nature. And there's a balance. I think the key word is balance, because
Yep.
every morning I get up, and I learned this from Morris Vindon, that spending a thoughtful hour on the life, well, it's in Desire of Ages, page 83. Spending a thoughtful hour on the life of Christ. That's one of the things I really try to make certain I do first thing every day, is spending that time with Jesus. And if I can get my time with Jesus and a run in every day, man, whatever happens, let it come. And I'm okay. My house could burn down. As long as my family's okay, I'm good. In fact, a pastor friend of mine, his house, he came home from prayer meeting, and his house was on fire. And the fire department, it wasn't too bad. They put it out, so you got to stay in a hotel, the smoke and everything. Came back the next morning, it was completely gone. And they didn't put it out well enough. And I remember someone said, "Wow, we feel so bad." And he said, it's all going to burn anyway. He said, "I'm just one step ahead of the rest of you guys." But material things, they're just material things. But your faith in God, your family, man, just as we as men, we know that being the priests of the home, making certain that my kids know I make a lot of mistakes, but one mistake I don't want to make, and that is that they see me each morning spending time with the Lord. And that's the most important thing I can do for them. Right. Because it's kind of like when you get on a plane and no one listens to that flight attendant when they say, "Hey, you know what? Put that mask on first, even before you help your kid." Yep. And that's what spending time with God is like. You need to do that. If you're going to help your kids and your family or anyone else, if you don't spend time with the Lord, you have nothing to give. You're not able to give. And that's why it's so important. In fact, I learned the hard way that the most important thing we can do as men or anyone is to let God love us. It's not to love others or to try to win souls for him. It's let God love you, because when you do that, everything else will follow in its train. And I'm learning this. I have to keep relearning it. The most important thing I can do each day is let God love me. And when I do that, I'll understand how to love others.
Amen. Okay, I'm going to just ask a question related to men in particular when it comes to both of those things that you mentioned. I think these are both areas that men fail very, very consistently, and that is taking care of their core strength, really, their mental, physical, and spiritual core. And I see them so intertwined together in that morning time with God, recalibrating and getting back to where we need to be to experience God's love. How do you, as a pastor, communicate this? Do you make it a point to? I'm sure you do, but how do you do that? And especially, how do you laser in on men? Sometimes what I find with men is you got to talk direct to men, hit them over the head for them to hear you.
Yeah.
If it's generic and to everybody, you're not talking to me. You know what I mean? So I don't know. What have you experienced in that area? Because I think it's critical.
Yeah, that's such a great point. In fact, I've learned that if you can reach 19 to 39-year-old men or even older, you're going to reach everyone else. And a lot of times in a message, "Hey, guys, listen, this is just for you men right here."
So you'll do a pause and just boom.
Yeah, just pause. Hey, listen, attention right here. And I say, "I want to share something with you men." And one of the things is that I think we all know, and I've shared this before, is that focus on the family revealed, and so has others, that if a man joins the church, there's a 93% chance his family will join. But if a woman joins the church, there's only a 18% chance that her family will join. So as leaders, guys, they follow you. It's just a natural thing. Your wife and your children will almost always follow what the man, just by his actions. And so we have such a powerful, we can't pat ourselves on, dislocate our arms, patting ourselves on the back saying, "Hey, we're heroes," because we fail so much, but we do need to be good examples. And that time alone with Jesus is really, I've discovered in my own life, is the one thing that really keeps me going. And I think I've seen colleagues leave ministry, they get frustrated. And yes, there's, to live above with, what's that saying? To live below with saints we know, or to live above with saints we love, that will be glory. To live below with saints we know, that's another story.
I've never heard that one, Dave. That's a good one. You write that one down, Mike.
And, it's kind of like Moses, as pastor. well, I could be a great leader if it just wasn't for these members, if it just wasn't for these people. But we're dealing with people, and there's all kinds of different issues and things. And I've seen colleagues leave because I had one ask this family, "Well, do you spend any?" "No, we're too busy." Well, they're not even real. And if a pastor doesn't spend time with the Lord, we can get so caught up in the work of the Lord, we forget the Lord of the work.
Right.
And we need to make certain that our strength is going to come from above. We can't do it all. There's no way. And I try to delegate, man. And you can't do it from up front. Say, hey, you know what? We need volunteers. You got to put your arm around someone. Say, hey, Brother Joe, you know what? You're the guy for this job. I can see you are cut out for this. That's how you get people to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The personal invite, always good. Mike, you got anything?
Oh, not in particular. I mean, I'm just hearing a seasoned pastor, share some great pastoral advice in terms of not just as a pastor to men, but also as a pastor within the congregation. And I can't say I don't know how many pastors listen to the podcast here, but I can imagine, pastors need to better learn how to communicate to their men. And I'm sure you've done a good job with that. Maybe that's a thought or question. If through your years in your congregations, have you done anything specific, or is there a pattern that you found that helps working with or to get men to be involved in helping the ministry of the church?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love Blueprint for Men because you guys have so much material to help with, and I'll try to get our men to do certain things for their families and their wives and their children. Right now, I have a guy that I'm working with that I'm priming to be our men's ministry leader. And he's right on the edge. Say, yeah, I need to do it, Pastor. I need to do it. So anyway, I really sense the need for a men's ministry. We have a women's ministry leader, but it's harder to get men to commit, and I don't know why. But anyway, we have a really good guy that's cut out for it, and that's one of the things I really want to see happen, because I see a lot of the younger men that need mentored, and if we get that going, I think it'll help in so many areas.
For sure. Well, Dave, it's good to see you and connect with you on this podcast. And I know that your ministry out there, a little envious. I always thought of someday living in Colorado, but I've been stuck back here in Tennessee for a long. I'm not. When I say stuck, I enjoy where I live, but there's just something where I come alive in the big mountains out there. I know that my wife and I and family, we're hoping to come out there to spend a little time. And we hope to touch base with you and Mike and maybe pull off an event. That's the penciled in plan right now.
Cool.
Got to firm that up here sometime soon. But yeah, just the whole ministry message here is that, guys, we need to address our physical health. And I'm speaking to myself. I'm so challenged in this area. I look at you at the age of 65 and, I still go out and climb mountains and all that kind of stuff and go back. Most people think, oh man, you're still so, whatever. And it's like, compared to what? Not compared to Dave Ketelsen. So you inspire me. I'll just say that. And that's worth saying. I think that we need men like you in our lives that kind of say, hey, you can do it, with a cheerful tone. And that you're setting an example that words, if you were to just say something from the pulpit and you're not living it, it falls on deaf ears. And I feel like, that we are created to be the temple of the Holy Spirit. And so, what kind of temple are we in the physical dimension, and it's a challenging message. The number of men that are obese in the church is, let's face it, the whole nation is in dire straits.
Yeah.
And so I just encourage you to press on, brother. I don't know how much longer you've got till retirement, but if you're like me, we don't see the end of it yet, but
Sure.
we enjoy it.
Yeah, we do. I just want to share one quick thing that happened.
Yeah.
Sabbath, I came home, got a call from a former FBI agent, Al Brown, and first words out of his mouth, he says, Pastor Dave, when I die, I want you to do my funeral. I said, what, are you planning to die? He says, no, I'm too ornery to die, but I want you to do it. I watch your live streams, and he lives in Atlanta. And just so you know who Al Brown is, you can Google this, but Al Brown is the guy that caught Frank Abagnale. You ever hear that story, Catch Me If You Can? And so they made it into a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. But he's the guy that put handcuffs on Frank Abagnale. They're good friends now. But anyways, he told me, he says, if I lived there in Colorado, I'd be attending your church. So I called the pastor near him and asked him to reach out to him. So anyway, I was pretty excited about that. That this guy, Al Brown, you can Google him. The Joe Shea is was the chief. So Joe Shea played, Tom Hanks played Joe Shea, but Al Brown is the guy that actually caught Frank Abagnale.
Wow, that is cool.
He's a Christian now. He paid everything back, all the money he stole, became a pilot at the age of 16. He was a professor. He was a doctor. He was, let's see what else. He did all kinds of things. But before he was 18, 19 years of age, and then they finally caught him. Yeah. But Al Brown's the guy that put handcuffs on him, and Tom Hanks played his boss, which was Joe Shea, because they wanted the FBI, the head of the FBI, to be played rather than Al Brown, but he's the guy that caught him.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
Oh, full circle back to Hollywood, Dave, right?
Yeah. Right.
Hey, I'll tell you a little trivia piece for me. Not that it matters, but my cousins and we were on the Family Feud back in 1988, 89, somewhere in there, and we were on 11 times.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a whole nother story for another episode. But anyway,
cool.
it was a lot of fun, and we won a little bit of money. But yeah, that was a good experience in the limelight,
Neat. That is so cool.
Well, I don't have any family experiences trivia to draw from, but I can say that I grew up, if any of the Adventist people in the audience, I grew up playing on the same streets that Ellen White did in Portland, Maine. So, and I happened to got baptized on October 22nd of 1991. So there's a connection there for me, a little trivia with my history.
Connection,
so,
yeah.
A little bit.
Cool.
Well, this has been a great conversation, even with our little glitches. But thank you so much, Pastor Dave.
Oh,
and
pleasure.
I'm definitely hoping we will be connecting, at least here in Colorado, you and me, maybe even you and me and your ministry leader there. And we can get something going here in the Rocky Mountain Conference. That would be great. If you liked our podcast, we really would love it if you could rate and review this podcast and get it shared with more guys that need this message of hope for these days. God bless everybody.